What you doing?
What you mean, what am I doing? I'm listening to my favorite podcast.
What that is?
SCTTTV. Soul consciousness.
Hello, family, and welcome back to another episode of SCTT TV, Soul Consciousness Theater Troupe, where storytelling meets healing and liberation. I'm your host, Dee Michelle.
And I'm Okosawa, your host and fellow creative. On this incredible journey, today we are diving into one of the biggest challenges for independent filmmakers. Funding.
Yes.
Okay. But we're also celebrating the milestones that comes along the way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We're thrilled to be joined by a powerhouse filmmaker from our very own hometown. Lee Zellars, everybody. Yeah. Now, Lee's got a powerful new documentary on the horizon, Sky High. The story of Basil Lewis versus Nike. And he's here to talk about the process, the struggles, and the victories that come with funding and producing powerful stories.
So, let's give a warm welcome to our guest, Lee Zellars, a filmmaker, storyteller, and advocate for justice through film. And probably way more than that. Well, he's going to tell us all that. All right. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this, and
Yes, so are we.
just want to make sure I just do all the right things and tell y'all, your viewers, the right stuff and keep them on the right track of filmmaking.
And we're right now in one of his famous studios, aren't we?
Studio / crib / catering room / whatever you need it for.
Yes.
We feel so at home.
And tell us a little bit about your background in film.
My background in film actually started when I was a freelance photographer. I was a freelance photographer for many years here in Cincinnati, photographing the who's of Cincinnati type of thing. And then saw a documentary, I can't remember which one, but it was like watching that and then seeing some movies that started giving me this idea of like, what would it be like to transfer from freelance still photography to motion pictures.
Wow. Love it. Now, what's your inspiration behind your new film that's going to be coming out?
That came about, I had just completed Sometimes You Bite, the vampire movie. And after getting that submitted, I wanted to see, just trying to get an idea what I was going to do next. So didn't really have a clue. Sometimes it's like that. You're looking for inspiration and you're trying to, come on inspiration is not coming. So, but it comes in ways where you don't expect it. So what happened was, like I said, what had happened was, I get a message from a Basil Lewis about a filmmaker in Louisville who needed a cameraman. So Basil thought that would be a good idea for me if I wanted to be a cameraman for this filmmaker. But what I noticed, pretty much what came to me was, who sent the message? And it was Basil Lewis, and I was like, that's the next project. Basil Lewis. It's been a long day. It's not been as hot as it has been in the past few days, and depending on where you're living at, I know you know something about that because we have been dealing with some heat here in Cincinnati. But the heat is not what we're going to talk about. We got some heat. I have my man Troy Taylor on the line. How you doing, Troy?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. I'm Troy Taylor. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'm a high school football coach out here. And it might have been last year I got to see the movie Air. And I kind of got enthralled with Sonny Vaccaro and George Raveling. And I wanted to learn more and learned about Tinker Hatfield. And then I found out about Basil Lewis. So when I found out about Basil, it was like the missing piece of the puzzle.
But the
far as designing the shoe, that came actually in '85, and that's.
Now, let's talk about money.
Money.
Money. And not in the flashy way, of course, but in the real, gritty, make it happen type of way. How did you raise funds for Sky High?
A lot of times for me in doing independent film, sometimes the biggest challenges, I just want to kind of just go into this, because sometimes the biggest challenges for filmmakers, first time filmmakers, is money. So we start thinking like, oh, I gotta have money to do this, I gotta do that. And if we change the thought process to the things I need to have access to in order to do this project, and then when you start looking at those things, and you might find out that, okay, I got a friend who's a cameraman who's got real good camera skills, and I know he's not gonna charge me a lot of money. He might do this for free. And he might also be an editor, and he might not charge me a lot of money. So you got the biggest part down, you got a camera person, now you got an editor. So then you just got to figure out all those other things like location. Can you find a location where somebody won't charge you? Can you get actors or whatever that won't ask for money? So when you get all those kind of things, you'll realize like the money that you may need may be for more minute type stuff. It might be for traveling gas, stuff like that. To feed your cast and crew or whatever, to buy SD cards or something like that. And before you know it, you don't really need a budget.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense, actually. And what were some of the key milestones for you? And we're not even talking about raising funds, but in moving a project forward. Because I work with people, and sometimes when you have other people you have to consider, some of them aren't as responsible, and they can set you back quite a way. So.
Definitely.
Where were the moments when you thought, we're really doing this?
It's like my thing goes so far back, so it's kind of like the first time when I was doing a movie and I had the idea and I wrote the story and all that kind of stuff. It's like the moment when you get your cast, you get all that, you get your location. For me, it's like when I get on the first time on the set, whatever that set is, and filming that first day. That's when I know it's happening.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
All the other stuff, the preparation, the script, the location, the actors, rehearsal, that's kind of, it's not real to me until we capture something on camera.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
All right, so can you share with us some strategies you found to just have the extra money, the extra time, the extra gas? Like, how do you set aside the time?
The time sometimes can be the most challenging thing, because when you're trying to do a movie, most times you're working with people who everybody got jobs.
Exactly.
And everybody who got jobs, schedules are different. So me normally, I try to cast and set up things in a way, because I am the filmmaker. So I'm trying to set things up where it fits in my schedule. Because when you start trying to set your production up around this person's schedule, that person's schedule, and you're gonna have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to have the people that's gonna be involved understand that this is the schedule. If you can't do this schedule, then you can't be a part of this project.
Right.
So after you get that kind of thing nailed down, then it's just all the other little technical stuff or whatever you gotta do, and trying to find the right people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that, because it's exactly what you said. That's been my problem, trying to work around everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be.
And you're going to always, because of that, you're going to always have people things happen. Something come up where somebody can't film that day or whatever, which that can be a challenge too, especially when you got a location and you've been trying a long time to get this location. Now you got this location, now you got to cancel the location. So now you got to call this person and say, hey, I can't use that place for the next time I can get it. They may say, okay, I can let you use this 2 weeks from now. It's okay, you got it 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, guess what happens? Some other actor, I can't do it that day.
Yeah.
And from that point there, it's like, I need to restructure the story, change the location, all of that kind of stuff. And that's when it gets to be sometimes a challenge. And you just have to be creative and figure out other ways. You definitely have to be creative, fast thinking on your feet, because filmmaking requires that.
Okay.
And I know you probably don't need this, but has anybody ever offered like, hey, I want to fund the project, or I want to give some money towards a project? Has anybody ever?
I have people that do that, but it's like the funding that they want to give doesn't make a significant impact. It might be enough funding where I can feed my cats today and maybe buy a mic or something, but I got microphones, so I don't need that. So like, if I'm not going to get a significant amount of money that I know that can really benefit this project, then I'm just kind of like, unless you want me to just take your money for whatever I need it for and I'll give you some credit or something like that, but yeah.
What is a significant
amount of money that would go into a project for me, anything from $10,000 and up.
10,000 and up. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, have you, like right now, one of the things that we're doing is we're on one of the crowdfunding platforms. Have you tried that?
I tried that back. It was a time when GoFundMe and all these other platforms, they was really popular for independent filmmakers. And during that time, like in your mid 2000 or early 2000, there was a lot of people into that because it was new and it was exciting. And now it's kind of like it's being used for a lot of other things. But in the beginning, you had like, I think it was one called Indie something Go, and those was designed for filming.
Exactly.
But now everybody's using them for bury somebody or whatever, which is whatever you have to use it for. But I don't know. For me, I just find other routes because I know if I'm waiting for that, then I'm going to be waiting to get my project
right.
So
exactly.
I don't like waiting.
I mean, I know how it is when you want your project out, you want it to flow. So I get that.
Right.
I definitely get that.
Well, your journey reminds me so much of what we're trying to navigate with flowers.
Except you're so much further ahead than we are.
Yes, he's kind of like a legend, in my opinion. That's what
I think so too.
He's very modest, but he is a legend. Okay, y'all just gonna have to check out his works, and it speaks for itself. Turning vision into a cinematic reality for us. That's where we're at. We're currently building our own roadmap for production. What advice would you give us as filmmakers?
The biggest challenge for filmmakers, especially most people starts out as a writer because you have an idea in your head. So you start out as a writer with an idea. Then from that point, you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get this idea to the screen? That's where the challenge becomes, because if you're a writer, then that's what you do. You just write. So now you need to find somebody who is a cinematographer. You might need to find somebody who's a director. Then you got to try to find actors. And depending on how big your production you're trying to go with, there could be a lot of other things from casting people, location scouts and all that kind of stuff. So the advice I gave to somebody one time before, when they had an idea they were going to do an independent film, and they was going to just pretty much write and direct, but they started having these ideas of a scene take place at an airport, then on an airplane. I'm like, do you know how much trouble you're going to have to get okay for? So sometimes what you have to do is like, you may have to change up your writing story process to what do I have available? A home, I can have this restaurant, I can have outdoors is always available. So then when you start structuring your stuff, and you don't want to just structure your story just based on all of those things you may have have access to, because then that could change your story greatly. But you have to give that a lot of consideration when you're not working with a budget. So you have to think about those things you have access to.
Yeah.
I just want to say, for me, what happened, it was like a learning experience. Okay, I was doing my first documentary. I did the camera work because I told you I was a still photographer, so I know how to do that. So I shot the documentary, and I was over this guy's house having him edit it for me. And a friend called me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sitting over here getting this documentary edited." And he asked me, he said, "How much is that going to cost you?" I said, "I don't know, I think it's like $2,000. He's like, "Wow." He said, what is he doing it on? I said, "A computer." So then he's like, "Couldn't you buy a computer and learn how to do that yourself?" And at that moment, I'm like, dude, I ain't trying to learn. I just got to this point.
Right.
But the reality was, it put something on my mind for later. Like, yeah, if I bought what he got and learn how to do this, then I won't have to pay. And that's how it all started working for me. So I started learning how to do these things. So it put me in a position where it's like, all I need is actors.
Yep. And then, again, that makes perfect sense because I'm on the beginning of that journey.
Right.
And my whole focus is on writing. But I realized I have to learn other stuff.
Right.
And like you doing the photography and writing, that was my thing. I kind of like staying in the background and then just watching it happen. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
And mind you, our film is coming from the stage, so we're adapting it into a screenplay.
Big transition.
A film a screen production, a stage production that we've done over and over and over.
Yes.
Like most in theater, you're gonna like every year. Oh man, it's time to go see Porgy and Bess. It's something that happens on a regular. But a film, you film it once, and then people can decide if they want to watch it or not.
Right. And like you said, though, there's a whole lot of things. When I first thought about doing it, I thought, okay, maybe I'll just rewrite it this way, and it doesn't work that way. It's so many things I have to change because I'm transitioning to film.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard. I thought it was going to be easy because it's easy for me to write, but now I have to really pay attention to what I'm doing. It's like you said, we talk about, what are you going to have access to? What places will you have? What locations?
Right.
I have to think about all that now instead of just writing a story.
My advantage, I guess, for me was that I was a photographer. So like I did understand camera work. I understood lighting, composition, and that stuff. But that was just in still photography. But it really all got reshaped when I watched this movie by the director Robert Rodriguez. It's called El Mariachi. And what happened was he had the movie air on this channel called IFC. And what they would do on there sometimes, like on a Thursday, every Thursday, whatever, they would show a movie and they would have running commentary. So you would hear the director talk about, and sometimes you hear directors just talk about, well, we have such and such actor, he did this, blah, blah, blah. I hired this guy for whatever reason. Robert Rodriguez' thing was totally different. When he explained this one scene that took place in a bar, and he said, okay, you see that red light behind that woman over there, and that green light off into the corner? He said, well, those are painter lamps, the kinds you clamp on. And he said, those are party bulbs that you can find in mostly any store. And so when I saw that and him explaining that, it took the so-called Hollywood magic that I always thought you had to have to make a movie, that you needed all of these things. And when he broke it down like that, it was a game. That was my game changer. Yeah, that changed everything for me. It was like, this is doable. This is doable.
The possibilities are endless now. Look at you. You making documentaries and calling Nike to the floor. Like, hey, what's up, Nike?
We got some questions.
Now, when it comes to community, how do you keep your network engaged and supportive throughout the long production process?
That sometimes is the most challenging thing, because if you're doing a film and you're just shooting on weekends, and if you're doing, like, say, a 90-minute movie or a 2-hour film, you could be filming for the next 5 or 6 months. So depending on when that process starts, if it's going into the summer, then you might got to consider, like, there's holidays coming up.
Right.
People have birthday parties for their kids and all these different things. And then it's beautiful out some days. And like some of the people might be like, I don't want to be on the set for 5 or 6 hours. I'd rather be at the park. So you have to be like, you're like the ringmaster, like in the circus. And you're going to have all these different people with all these different personalities. And you got to somehow be able to keep their excitement. And a lot of times that could have a lot to do with the story that keep them involved and want to be, on the set and can't wait to get on the set again to do their part. That could play a lot into it too. And just trying to find people that's excited about doing, that's a key thing. People who are excited about acting want to act.
Yes.
People who just kind of like, want to tell my friends I'm in a movie.
Right. Exactly.
They're going to be the ones that like, 3 months in, ask how much longer is it going to take? When are we going to get done? You know, and you don't want that. You want people to just want to be there because they want to be a part of this project.
Yes. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So you're right.
That makes perfect sense to me. All right. So, what does your typical production timeline look like for pre-production and then to release, like typically?
In the beginning, when I used to start doing this in the beginning, when I was doing like my earlier films like Nattyville and Justifiable Romance and the movie called Dick. Dick's not bad. It's about a detective. Private detective.
Get your minds out the gut.
So, anyway, when I was doing those movies, we would be done, and they would be like feature films. Mm-hmm. And we have production done. Pre-production for me was like just getting a story and getting the locations and knowing the actor, who's going to play the part. That might take me a month. Okay. You know, if I got the story written. Yeah, if I got the story done, it might take me a month to get everything together, locations and my people. After I get all that done, and we know the dates we're filming, and most of it was on the weekend, then it was based on like how many scenes can you get done in a day. Yes. So if you know like the length of your story, and if you're looking at like, okay, if I can get 4 scenes done on a Saturday, 4 scenes done on a Sunday, and you can keep that kind of pace, then you can get your movie done in a quicker amount of time. But if you start getting into that situation where you got to cancel, if you're only filming on the weekend and you got to lose a Sunday, you might have lost 5 scenes or whatever that you could have filmed. So that all that start pushing your movie back. So instead of you being wrapped in maybe 2 months or within 3 months, now you're talking 4 or 5 months. Okay. So it's that thing trying to keep everybody on schedule and letting them understand the importance of trying to stay on schedule so we can get this done in a certain amount of time.
And you also have to deal with, I'm assuming you have to deal with weather and things like that also. Yes,
because like this past winter, I would have loved to shot Sometimes She Bite because I wanted Sometimes She Bite to be done during the wintertime. Yes. But when I started the previous winter, when we did film it, we didn't have a lot of winter, we didn't have a lot of snow, it was kind of like fall-ish thing. So, but that's not what I wanted, but I just had to go with it anyway. So.
But it was great.
It was
great.
Especially the part where you were dying. That was hilarious.
But I like so as far as this documentary, like specifically with this one, what are some of the challenges and like some of your celebratory moments with doing the documentary Sky High?
The challenge was kind of like after I decided when I made a decision, okay, I'm gonna do the documentary about Basil. So when I told him, like, you know what, man, I want to do this documentary. You've been telling the story about life for a long time. Yes. I want to do a real live documentary on it. Right at that moment, I told him that I wasn't planning on starting until like maybe I think like June or something. Mm-hmm. But he had an engagement in Virginia around the time I talked to him about doing this, and this was like 2 months before I was actually going to start filming. But I didn't want to miss that opportunity to capture what was going to take place in Virginia, so I just knew like, well, just got to get a car, get down to Virginia, get these shots and stuff. So that's the difference from doing a documentary and film. The process to me is a lot easier because you're not depending on actors needing to remember a script. Mm-hmm. Locations become a lot easier because you just got to find a place you can go interview that person at their home, on their job, whatever your story, your documentary is based on. You don't have to worry about a lot of stuff like your audio could be a lot different because you can just use clip-on mics on everybody and you got to worry about the mics being seen because it's a documentary. Right. So it makes the process, documentary to me, what I'm learning is a lot easier for me to do a documentary than it is to do a film.
Oh yeah.
But is it funner?
Is it funner? Yeah. You know why?
More fun.
I say why this has been more fun to me because the movie stuff is just fictional storytelling stuff, which everybody likes a good story. Yes. But this is something that's like, I see it as helping somebody.
Yes.
You know, and that's the thing I'm getting out of it. Mm-hmm. That is like, I'm helping somebody get a story out that they've been wanting to tell for so long. So it's that part. And
I'm with you on that one. I'm definitely with you on that.
And like, you can re-elaborate on it. You kind of went over a little bit, but how does that approach do for storytelling across your different projects? Like, I know it's not I know you talked about the difference between a documentary and a film, but like your consistency, how you can flow, how does that go across all your other projects?
It's a sort of a different process as far as like the energy flow, because with the movie, I'm always thinking about the pace of the story and things that I want to have take place in it, things that, again, how would I have access to and that kind of stuff. But with the documentary, it's kind of like you get the idea of how you want to tell the story. And it's kind of in the same way, sort of like a film. You know, you introduce your audience to who the players are, and it's the same in the movie. You introduce them to the characters, who they are, and then you start to build that story up so the audience will know where you're going with it. So you get to that moment where it's either you're building up to that climactic ending. So it's still that same kind of structure in some sense, in the same way that you would have a film. You gotta have that beginning, that middle, and that ending to close it all out.
Right. Well, I'm sure that you're pro at it now.
I'm learning.
You're learning how you go. And you've shared so much wisdom and transparency, and we really appreciate it. We really do.
I'm glad to share that.
But before we close, what's one lesson that stands out from your filmmaking journey?
The thing that stands out to me is how doable this stuff is. And today it's even more doable. When I first started doing it, it was that whole perception where like you had to have this, you had to have that, you had to have a budget. And that's what kept a lot of people from doing films. I know a lot of people that was trying to make movies and they was always waiting on this money that was gonna never come.
Right.
So when I figured a way of getting around all that kind of stuff, then that made it so much easier. But then a lot of that it's like, how much of it do you want to learn to do this? Again, Robert Rodriguez, one of his things was learn as much as you can, and then that way you don't have to ask nobody.
Right.
And but then some people don't always have that ability to learn all of this, learn all
Exactly.
of that. So that puts you where like, okay, I'm a writer, but I'm not a camera person, or I'm not an editor. And then you got to find somebody who wouldn't mind doing the work for you if you don't have the money to pay them. So you can at least like, they can shoot it and cut it and you can still get your story done.
Right.
But having the ability to do it all on your own, yes, it makes it a lot better.
So it's good for another reason.
But the other part I was gonna say too, like when I was thinking about the advancement of it, like today now, it's like your laptop, your iPhone, like they're making high quality films with iPhone. It's amazing.
AI.
Just like, I need a video of a guy doing this and doing that, and it creates it for you.
You could have had snow. You could have even had snow.
That's right. You sure.
Well, it's funny with AI though. AI is like, it's sometimes hit and miss. It's like a part I was doing a documentary where I'm certain it's kind of like sort of a story within the documentary, and I wanted AI to find, like, I have a police officer or a detective searching for a stolen shoe, and every time I had it do it, it would come back something not like what I wanted.
Like a
the
seven-figure
like,
person.
Right. Or the shoe had blood all over it. I'm like, what?
We've been there. She was doing something for our, like a commercial for our audience. And she asked for something specific, and what came back, it was really scary, but it was a little creepy. I was like, no, it's not happening.
So we're going to talk about community again because it's important. Because I'm part of Lee's community. I'm family. Okay, that means that when he's ready to do something and he asks me, I'm saying yes.
Yes.
So I will ask you this. How important is community support in the work that you do as an independent filmmaker?
Very important. Very important. Because the thing is this, you want to build a network of people that you can depend on, and then they trust what you're doing.
Right.
So then when you go to say, okay, I got an idea for a movie, like when y'all was coming in, and if I was to say, Kusa or whatever, I got this idea for a scene I want you to play, then you done been in my films before you see the process, so you know what it'd be like. So that's so important to like let people know that number one, that you're gonna do what you say you're gonna do, the project's gonna get finished, And in the process of doing a project, you're doing it in a way where it's professional as you can on the level that you're working on, so people will feel comfortable working with you, and then they want to come back and do the next project.
Yes.
And then just keeping that stuff out there using social media so other people can see it. Because when other people see, they might not know who you are, but they might know somebody in your project, and they see, oh wow, she's doing that. How did I get involved in blah blah blah? And they, oh well, you got to talk to him and all that. And then that's how that all builds up. And after a period of time, next thing you know it, you like got access to all these different folks. And
Yes.
That makes sense. So what role does specifically Cincinnati, play in your creative process and your content choices?
Cincinnati plays everything because it's the background in the history of my life here. It's like, the structure, the community, seeing how the community changes. Like I was looking at a movie, one of my movies, OTR, how Vine Street was Smitty's clothing store that used to be down there, all that stuff gone. So it's like having that moment where I captured downtown how I used to look, and so the city and being here and the people of Cincinnati is so, and let me say this, sometimes what happens when we do things and we do an event or whatever and we don't always get the response or the numbers or whatever, you got to just stay focused, because sometimes when you're doing something, everybody might not know who you are, and so they might not care to come out, but as time goes by, you keep being consistent with it, and people keep seeing that you're consistent with it, then next thing you know, the support is there. When you do something, everybody.
And you selling out theaters,
and
man.
That's what
you selling out
every
theaters.
time.
And that's a process. Again, I remember when we first started out, we would do a movie showing somewhere, and then mostly would be the cast. And we look around, and it's like, hey, so you brought your friend, But over time, we just kept doing it, kept pushing it, and then you hit that mark where you do a premiere and you like, wow, like everybody, and then it just stays.
Got tickets.
It's so
Catch
cool.
up next time, right, Lee?
That's so cool. That's where your love for your city, because your city is showing you love by coming out supporting. That means everything.
Absolutely,
it does.
As we're adapting flowers from stage to the screen, what advice would you offer for us managing the creative vision during transitions between these mediums? I'm not asking you as an expert from doing stage, but just in general, from even photography.
Like I never done theater, but I understand when you got a play or whatever that you created for theater, transferring it to film, it's the same sort of. It's like after you got your story, the same story that you're adapting from theater down to film, you just got to figure out, okay, where this particular scene takes place, what location can I have to do this? Do I have access to a kitchen, or do I have access to a basement, or whatever? It's figuring out those things, who's going to be the actors, who are the people that you can depend on, that you know is going to show up and do the work. Then it's the technical aspect of who can you get to do, who's going to capture it, and then who's going to chop it all up so they can get it to the screen for you, and that they know what they're doing. Right. That's important too. It's very important to have people that know what they're doing, because with the way things are, this equipment is so made available, and because it's made available, everybody feel like, well, I can be a filmmaker, or I can do whatever. And yeah, you can, but you still have to have creativity, know what you're doing behind the camera, so it look like what it should look when it's on the screen.
It's got to be your passion.
Yeah, you gotta have. If you don't have passion for this stuff, then you don't need to do it.
You don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
And then if you're doing this stuff, the thing that I used to get a lot of people was like, their whole thing was like, yeah, I want to do this movie, I want to get out to Hollywood. Okay, so if you don't get out to Hollywood, then what?
Right.
So
yeah, that's your hope. That's your focus, rather than getting your story out.
Setting yourself up for disappointment.
Failure, because the idea of the number of people who make it to Hollywood, those numbers that's like the lottery. Right. It's the equivalent, almost like the lottery.
And it still all comes back to, why are you doing what you do?
Right.
Are you trying to help somebody? Are you trying to tell a story that just needs to be told?
Right.
You don't have to go to Hollywood for that.
No.
You could do that here.
Yeah.
Sure can.
And if Hollywood is the only thing you're thinking of, or some other place like that, then your focus is wrong. There's probably something that's more of a hobby than a passion.
Yeah.
Or some people call it pipe dreams.
Pipe dreams.
And to our listeners, if you're building something from scratch, know this: progress takes persistence. Okay,
Yes.
like you said, keep going. You didn't get a
Yes.
filled up theater the first time or the second time. Keep going, because what you're doing is important. You're not alone. Also, from Sky High to Flowers, we're all pushing to bring stories that matter to the screen. That's our focus.
Do you have any final words for us?
Just people who like, if it's film, if it's music, whatever your dreams, passions are, just, you can't let people get in the way. You can't let things that kind of hold you back, like, I can't get over this is going wrong, whatever. You just got to keep pushing forward until you find your way. And it's always going to be a challenge, but you just got to be willing to accept the challenges. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, you'll find a way to get around those things.
I love it. All right, well, thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Your story and your courage and your commitment to storytelling are inspiring. They really are. Of course, you know I've been following you anyway. We'll definitely be following Sky High and all your other projects, because he's going to be doing lots of them. We're going to make sure of that. And hopefully we can have you back again.
Love to be back.
Make sure to follow us on social media. Let us know what stories are you trying to tell, you know, what milestones that you have and you've reached. And then, Lee, let us know, how can we reach out to you? How can we find you?
Just Google search Lee Zellars and it'll take you to all kind of stuff. Good stuff.
Make sure you watch his movie and that you are prepared for the premiere of Sky High when it comes out. I don't know how he's going to do it this time, if there's going to be a premiere or if it's going to go.
We're going to do a premiere. It should be in July, mid-July, but it'll definitely be a premiere. It could be, I don't know which theater, but it will be a premiere.
And get your tickets early, because all of his projects sell out quickly. So you know.
I'm telling y'all. All right. Again, thank you, Lee, for
you.
having us in your beautiful, comfortable, very comfortable home. And we can't wait to have you back on our show.
I'm looking forward. I'm excited about doing this.
And what do we say, everyone? Make sure that you keep your
soul conscious and your vision clear.
Peace.